This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
Next 1000.
I was talking with a conservative sympathizer recently, someone who likes parts of what us Free Staters are doing. I mentioned some of the anti-federal bills that have been proposed in the coming New Hampshire legislative session. One specifically that looks like it would prevent the feds from acquiring income taxes in New Hampshire, at least directly. He said, well, if you did that, wouldn't that mean civil war? I said, no, that's not exactly how it works. The authorities have plenty of other options for dealing with something like that, if in fact they wanted to crack down. But in any case, I think it's just useful for us to do some thinking about how exactly the feds would handle various types of legislative rebellion in the state. As always, it's instructive to look at the past. What's been done before, in many cases, is what will be done again.
Live free or die! Live free or die!
Anti-federal legislative efforts play a constructive role in keeping Washington from running completely roughshod over the people. But if we're going to back such legislation, we should be ready for the type of backlash that is available to Washington. They don't have to choose just between sending in tanks and doing nothing. They'll do something else. Their first goal would be to make sure that legislation of this type doesn't pass in the first place. That's what they did around 2006, when the New Hampshire government was looking into rebelling against Real ID. Federal operatives appeared in the State House building at key times when the Real ID Resistance Act was under consideration, leaving in their wake a series of changed positions on the part of New Hampshire politicians. The Resistance Act was successfully delayed for nearly a year. Actually, it may have been a little more than a year, although it did eventually pass. Once it became law, it mysteriously failed to prevent the New Hampshire government from going ahead and implementing some of the Real ID aspects. An invisible hand may have been at work. If another bill passes that seems to shoot down their authority, they'll probably try to react that way to it, undermining the enforcement of the law. There's likely to be pressure on individual politicians, maybe ugly pressure. If that sort of thing fails, the next hostages might be the people of New Hampshire. In 2005, 2006, 2007, around there, Homeland Security folk hinted that we might not be allowed on aircraft if we did not go along with the anti-privacy identity regimen of Real ID. If things went further, and the feds didn't feel like they were getting anywhere with those methods, Washington could attempt the hacking of New Hampshire government web servers or those of New Hampshire liberty activists. I should probably say pages rather than servers. This is what they've apparently been doing with WikiLeaks. If they felt New Hampshire were getting too independent, they might try cutting power lines going into the state, communications.
I'm not shutting it off, officer.
Well, you going to jail.
Excuse me?
The safety of New Hampshireites outside the state might become increasingly in question. Federal Reserve money could easily lead local authorities around the country to target New Hampshireites who are living or who are outside the state. Passports could be revoked. New Hampshireites outside the United States could be denied re-entry. A clandestine or open PR campaign would probably be launched to try and direct anger toward New Hampshire's liberty politicians rather than to the federal government that's inflicting all this damage. None of these eventualities are reasons for us to shirk or shrink from independent-minded moves. As Gandhi said, if we hang together large numbers of us, we will be certainly successful. And even if a small number of us can hang together and continue on, then we'll be successful. It will just take longer. That's what he had to say when he was fighting South Africa's version of Real ID in 1907. His success in that fight, by the way, was no greater than ours in 2006 and 7.
And it's really just an office space.
The primary solution to all these challenges, I think, is going to be having a bully pulpit of our own that rivals the size of Washington's. We're quite a ways from having that now, but we're moving in that direction. One other option authorities would have at their disposal would be called the Reichstag approach, or the false flag attack, where you have an agent provocateur do something pretending to be on the side of liberty activists or on the side of the rebellious state, something that everyone would be revolted by.
These are just some of the things we might expect the authorities to do, but the most important thing to expect would probably be the unexpected. It's important that we not get discouraged by all the different forces that are arrayed against us and their options. We'll have options too. I'll be discussing those in a separate video. Look for it to be posted as a video response.
You're exercising your First Amendment rights.
Well, I'm exercising my authority, okay?
Why is it that hundreds of liberty lovers have moved and continue to move to New Hampshire? In part, it's because of the Free State Project's First 1,000 pledge. The success of that pledge gave this man an idea. Max Abramson of New Hampshire is starting what he calls the Next 1,000 Pledge, designed to get another 1,000 Free Staters into New Hampshire by 2011. To find out more, visit pledgebank.com/next1000.